Well, these are informal sessions. I've got some things to share. Hopefully, you'll have some things to share or questions. Nobody is muted. I've got, except if they choose to be muted, I've got screen share enabled for everyone. So if something comes up that you want to share, it should be possible for you to do that. What I plan to cover is first of all, a new program that I was given, Luminar AI. Then I plan to go to Photoshop and talk about loading an action. And I had put a link to the action in the description of the program.
It looks good.
Oh, there you are, Jim. I can see you.
Yeah, now it looks right. I don't know what happened.
Phase of the moon.
And I have the TK8 panel to show. Now, I've changed my Photoshop layout so everything will fit on one screen, which should make screen sharing a whole lot easier. But let me tell you, it's awfully uncomfortable for me to use Photoshop with just one screen. I'm tripping over the top of myself all the time, but I wanted to have something that would look familiar to everyone else. Probably my number one recommendation if you're doing Photoshop is get a second monitor. So
I can attest to that.
Now, if you folks have questions or things you want us to talk about, you're the priority, not me. So feel welcome to speak up or ask or whatever you'd like to do.
Well, I'll take advantage of that right now. My name is John. I'm new. This is my first interaction with this group. I've been photographing since I was in high school. I was on the annual staff, the newspaper. I got to stand on the sidelines of the baseball games, the sidelines of the basketball thing. But once I started college, money got tight and I hung up my Nikon F2. Then about 4 years ago, a friend of mine posted an image of the Milky Way over Lost Lake. And I said, Jim, that's great. That's hard to do. And he goes, oh, no, it's not. I go, what do you mean? I tried to do that years ago. And he goes, oh, it's easy with digital. So I bought myself a used Fujifilm X100, neat little camera, but it went swimming in the ocean. So I bought a refurb. It's an X100F, but now I own two Canon RPs in addition to the Fujifilm. One's been astro modified. The other one is just the normal camera.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the group.
Oh.
Yes,
We're all amateurs. We just kind of play at this. The spirit of our club is that everyone helps everyone out as best they can. We've got folks at all levels of experience, and there's always somebody that knows more than the speaker knows somewhere in the group. So, but about a month ago, we had a Photoshop and Lightroom session, and we went long, and there was still a lot more to cover. And so this is the second edition, and we're going to kind of pick up and go, or go any direction people want to go. First thing I think that I will do is share my screen and let you take a look at a completely different program that most of you have never seen. It's Luminar AI by Skylam. Now, let me get it up here. Screen one, share. Okay, you should be seeing a fire truck.
Oh,
Not yet.
Nope.
It's working on it, I think. It's not yet.
Quit unexpectedly. Generator. Happy with it. Okay. Froze out, aren't I? No?
No, it says you've started screen sharing, but it's not coming through. He's back. Try it again.
Looks like I'm coming back in.
There it is.
Am I back in?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that one is not on me. That one is on Zoom because I didn't do anything wrong. I got to get you back up where I can see you. There you are. Now I'm going to hit that screen share button again. Should be right down there. And show my screen one. Share. Have you got the
There it
file?
is.
There we go.
There it is, yeah.
All right. Luminar AI. I got a free copy of this. I went to one of their photo walks, and because I showed up, they gave me a free copy. So this is just a quick look. It's not a comprehensive review, but this thing is intended as an alternative to Lightroom. They've got a catalog where you can load in images, various templates. Well, let me pick a different image for the templates. Okay, now we're going to do templates. They got, various scenery. There we go. Anyhow, I don't think a whole lot of their templates. This one automatically throws clouds in the background. Isn't that cool? But their editing section, I'm in to reset my image. Go to the editing section. And this is enhance up here in the corner. It's just kind of a one slider fix. Sometimes it works pretty good. Then they've got a lot of the same kinds of settings that you'll be familiar with from Photoshop or other products. But look at this one. This is sun rays. Place the sun. Well, where do we want the sun? Well, let's put it up here. How much do we want? Whoa! You can control how they look, their length, the color. You can set the sun off of the image and just have the rays coming in. I think it's kind of a neat toy. They've got, come back here now. A lot of the toning stuff that you're used to before. Let's hit glow. That kind of makes a soft focus glow. They've got portrait. I'm going to change images. They've got, let's bring her in. They've got portrait settings down here. Portrait bokeh gives you a way to throw the background out of focus with one swipe. On the face, we can make a light come on the face with just one slider. I mean, some of this stuff is kind of gimmicky, but I got it for free. I like some of it. I don't really think too much of all of it. Oh, we might as well slim her down, huh? She's going to look puny here in a second. So anyhow, that is a quick look. Oh, there she shrank. That is a quick look of what this program has to offer. You can use it as a plug-in in Lightroom or Photoshop. If you use it as a plug-in and in Photoshop, and we'll do that quickly later, you want to open your file as a smart object, and then you can come back and adjust this later, like most any other filters. If there are questions about Luminar, tell me and we'll look at them, because I'm going to close Luminar out here in just a second. This is they want $47 for a single license for this, or they've got a new version coming out. Seems like they come out with new versions with new charges a lot. That pre-order is $79. With these guys, don't ever pay full price, because if you sign up on their mailing list, it won't be long and there's going to be a discount. So they had a shoot up to Silver Creek, and I went, the CEO of the company was there. about a half dozen others of their people. And it was a pretty fun time, but most of the people there weren't using their program. Still, food for thought. All right, now we are in Lightroom. I'm getting a warning that says low system resources may affect audio quality. Try closing some applications. All right. Well, I have closed some applications.
Well, I'm hearing you coming through clear.
All right. Well, if you're hearing me, then we're doing okay.
I can hear you, but your sound fades in and out, like you're turning up the volume and then turning down the volume.
That could be.
So, yeah.
Well, let's take this image here into Photoshop. And Photoshop should already be open and empty. Whoa, come on, Photoshop. All righty, where's my Photoshop? I already hit the button to send this in. Maybe it's hiding behind. All right. Going to close Photoshop. And I'm going to go back to Lightroom and send this image to Photoshop. All right, there's Photoshop, sorta. Let's make it full screen. Is this what you see when you open your Photoshop screen? Because I've
Complete
got,
darkness.
yeah, I've got Window, Workplace, Essentials, Default, because I'm trying to get to the same screen that other people have when they open. Then
Mine is set to photography.
Okay. And I've customized mine pretty extremely.
all right, let's go
Same
to
here.
Workspace, Photography. Is that what you have, Carol?
Yeah, that looks like familiar.
Because I want to be on familiar turf. I want to be using this in a way that everyone recognizes. First thing, why on earth are they giving me this library here when it's taking up all this space that I could be using for other things? So the first thing that I would do is either get rid of this library, or, you with me, Carol? Windows, go down to Workspace, and then go to Essentials. You with me?
Yes.
And now I've got just a different set of panels up, but I've got some things that I can use. First, I've got a layers panel down here with channels underneath it, so I can go back and forth on that. I've got adjustments here. The libraries is underneath, hidden where I don't need it. Adjustments is a lot of the same things that you can find up here. Properties you're going to need every time you make an adjustment. And I don't know why this color section is so blooming small. Let's stretch it down a little bit so we can see what we're doing. And it would be nice to have the navigator. Let's see, there's the history. We're going to want the history. And Creative Cloud, we don't want that. All right, first thing I'm going to do is add in the TK8 stuff. And so we're going to go to Plugins, TK8, CRX. That's going to give us this screen. And then we're going to go to Plugins, TK8, Multi-Mask. Now, adding those two into this bar really makes my life easier. Now, that's not how I lay out my screen when I'm doing it on my own. but this shows you a way that you can do it with one screen. Now, let's go through this quickly, because the easy part of this is that when you put your mouse over the top of a button, it tells you what the button is. So, for example, this one is a live clipping. It gives you the red and the blue if you're outside, if you're too bright or too low. It comes in and you can take it out just like that. I don't use all of these buttons. This is a direct link into Adobe Camera Raw. This is a direct link into Content Aware Fill. This is Subject Select, Sky Select. This turns your masks on and off. This deletes the layers that you're not currently using. These give you a dodge and burn layer. And this one I use a lot, these two. This one gives you a stamp visible, which means it shows you a picture of all the layers down below, what it is, putting them together, but it doesn't do anything to those layers, so you can still go back to them. And this fun one here is invert. Oh. Anyhow, this is a big step ahead. Now in here, this program comes with a lot of stock actions, and I use these a lot. There is a dehaze that's pretty automatic, but the clarity one allows you to adjust the size of the clarity adjustment. So if you're interested in only small details, you can set it down here. If you're interested in showing larger details, you can set it up here. And then you get a clarity layer. And of course, at this point, you've got an opacity adjustment that you can use on that. It gives you a lot more control. I'll often run 2 clarity adjustments, one with small and one with large. The other thing is you control the blend mode. And sometimes you can get something, if you want something really a lot starker, you can go to a different blend mode and get different effects that way. Soft light is the dominant one, but overlay is just a little more intense. Anyhow, other things that's in this packet, there is frequency separation. I don't know if you're all familiar with frequency separation. This may not be the best image in the world to run it on, but you hit the button and then you adjust. It's coming up off the screen. You adjust how much blur you want it to blur the texture. What it does is it separates the color in the image from the value, from the lightness and the darkness. So a lot of times if you've got, let's say you've got blemishes, let's do it on this leaf here. All righty. We want
It's
to
my favorite way to touch up portraits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it to touch up portraits, but you can use it to touch up sand. You can use it to touch up sky. You can use it to soften a background. So I'm over here on texture. I'm going to add a mask. And now I'm going to paint with black paint. See, I just clicked on the black button and I've got a black brush. Now I've got too much flow up here. It's probably a good time to talk about the difference between flow and opacity too, if you don't have that down already. Opacity is how much it will build up if you just keep going. If I set the opacity to a little bit, you can color all you want, and it's still only going to give you 13% opacity. But if I've got the opacity set at 100 and the flow set at 100, I make a mark and it comes in as a black mark on the mask. But if I set the flow down, and I do this a lot, let's let the flow down low but the opacity is 100. And watch the mask, because I start out and it gradually adds. See, and I do it more, and it gets darker, So I can shade in just how much blurring I want from this and where I want it. Gives you a lot of control. The use of flow is helpful in a whole lot of circumstances. Let's go back up here and look at a couple more. I'm going to turn off frequency separation. I'm going to go to the top here. I'm going to get a new version that I can work with that doesn't have the messing around that I've been doing in it, and hit soft pop. Now, soft pop does some magic that I don't quite understand, but it blends with hard mix. And if you change the fill, you get dramatically different effects. And I use this quite a bit. Time you start playing with, let's get something a little darker with this, and then you start looking at different blend modes. Multiply. The way the math works in blend modes is it computes based on the lightness or darkness of the image, with dark being a value of 0 and pure white being a value of 1. So let's say you have an area in your image that is 50%. If you multiply them, you're going to get 0.5 times 0.5, which means the darkness will go down to 2.25. And each of these calculations, this is an adding of the dark, some multiplying. Some of them are pretty weird calculations, but you can see how easy it is to use these to get quite different creative effects, and it's worth playing with. I like this.
This one's nice.
I can occupy myself for a long time just playing with this stuff. Of course, I'm easily entertained. You all know that. And off of this. Others that I use quite a bit are Orion effect. That will give you a kind of an orange softness to it. I'm going to turn it up so it's very plain what it's doing. And then you put a mask on that, and you can mask your background in to have this. To do mask, back to black. So I'm going to mask out the center here. And see, you can have your subject natural and the rest of it tainted. Back in here, make it glow. Also, it increases the saturation, but in a very pleasing way. Now, over here, you can put your own actions. So any action that you want, the stack options action that we're going to be talking about pretty soon is here, but you can add in whatever actions you want of your own, and then you've got one button control for them. The other panel is the multi-mask panel, and it is cool. We're here. Let's go here. All right. This is for luminosity masks. This is a 1 mask. Let's say I want only the brightest colors. Well, here's a 5. Here's a 4. Go to the darkest part of it. Dark 4. All right, let's apply a dark 4. And then this will apply this mask to whatever kind of adjustment you want. A curve, levels, brightness, which I don't use, hue and saturation, burning and dodging. Those are the main ones I use. This will save the mask as a channel. This will make a pixel output. So if you click on one of these and you like it for a black and white, Well, you can click here and it will give you that as a pixel layer. Pretty cool. But let's say you want to lift the shadows in here. So I'm going to do a 4 mask, do a curves. Now I'm getting this mask on a curves adjustment, and this properties panel is much too small. And so I adjust this. See, I'm only affecting the darkest areas in the image because it's generated this mask, and it's a 16-bit mask. So the effect will taper naturally. You don't have to worry about coming up against a hard edge where you've selected and where you haven't. Let's do another one. And sometimes this works and sometimes it's problematic, but I'm going to give it a try. This button here makes a mask based on color. And I've selected this yellow leaf. Here's my color picker. Should show up when I look. Okay, selected all that color in the image. I can brighten it a little to give it more effect. I can broaden it so that it includes a few more tones, or I can use any of these things to adjust it. If I have an additional area I want to paint in, it's as easy as that to add to your selection. Now let's do hue and saturation. And it's going to generate that mask on a hue and saturation adjustment. And we're going to change the color of these leaves just like that. Now, this is an impractical illustration of what it will do, but there are a lot of situations where if you want to pick out the color of a flower, or if you want to increase just the saturation of a particular color, or decrease your greens and yellows, which is something I do a lot. Change the brightness. All right. These tools will get you there. You can add and subtract. All right, so I'm going to turn this layer off. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to get let's get a lights 3 mask. Okay, but I want to subtract from that, my calculator, subtract the very brightest parts, the 5s, okay? So now I'm going to get a mask that allows me to adjust these midtones, but it's going to protect my highlights. So I can boost these without worrying about blowing out the highlights in my picture because I've excluded them from the mask with the calculation. Like I say, I can play with this all day long. It will generate an outline of your image, which is pretty cool. I'm going to darken this just a little. Pull up the contrast just a little. Okay, but now we're going to apply this. Yeah, let's save it as a new layer. All right, that's cool, but come down here now and let's start playing with the blend modes, because you've got something really dark that's going to emphasize the lines in your image, but yet the color is going to go through. Or you can just have it control the luminosity, and you've gone away from the black and white to a color. And I'm working quickly, and not everything that I'm doing here is going to look good, but it's showing you just how quickly you can make some pretty drastic and creative adjustments to your image. One other thing I'm going to show before we move out of here is we click here and it will do color sketches or black and white sketches. And I always choose black and white because I can blend it in with the blend modes. Let's make it just a little larger. okay. Now it's going to churn away here for a second. And then it's going to give me a layers adjustment or a levels adjustment right here. And so you get a lot of flexibility for black and white fine tuning just that quick. And again, you can use these to emphasize or de-emphasize parts of your image. Let's say we invert this. Where's my other panel go? Invert it. Oh, here you can switch back and forth between seeing the mask and seeing the image, but this is the invert key right here. So that's a quick look at the TK8 panel and a lot of the things that you can do with it. The reason I like it is, first of all, it's cheap. Second, it has some great actions. And third, you can find things quick and get things done. Here, I just deleted all the panels I wasn't using. Here, I highlight this, click on the X, and yeah, sure, you can click on the mask and fool around and disable it, but I can do it in one click. It makes a lot of the tools. Let's get rid of some of this and go down here. This is the one I want. Okay, I'm going to get a new adjustment layer right above it. I don't want it way up there. I want it here. Okay, I'm on this layer and I'm going to select, let's just get a lasso tool. Polygon will do. All right. So I've got a selection. Now, one click, content aware fill. Let's see what it does. It may not come up on this screen. It's going to try and replace what's in there, and it automatically selects various parts of the screen. I click OK. And see, it's pulled that out. This is like using the little correction tool, but you can draw around the very thing that you want to get rid of. I mean, you can do it a lot more precisely than you can painting with the little healing brush. So, all right, going. Gone. They're gone. This isn't something you can't do otherwise, but it is convenient. Now, see S&M, select and mask. It takes you right into this selection panel so you can refine your selections. You probably already know how to use this panel, but I always stumble around trying to find it. And now I've got one button access to it. And over here on the far side, I can use the quick selection tool, which I'm going to use here. All right. Okay, now I'm, all right. There, we're going to get this spot. At least I thought we were. Then we'll just go down here to the brush. Brush it in. All right, rough. Now, as soon as it catches up with me, we're going to get the Refine Edge tool. We're going to click on Smart Radius. And I'm going to make it a little larger. Just go around this puppy. And it should automatically find, or at least come closer to approximating the edges of the spot. I can go again over places that didn't work well. This is really here to work on hair. And I'm working really fast. But you get the idea of what this is supposed to do. Let's try it here. Go up here, get my brush right down the middle of this. Get my refine edge tool, come right along here, and it should bring that in to approximate the edge of that. Sometimes better than others, but there we're getting a lot closer. But if you've got something really fine like hair that you're trying to pick out of a background, this is the tool to do it with. How do you output it? New layer with a layer mask be fine. And here it is. Okay, that's a brief summary of the TK panels.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Okay, the first one is that I purchased the TK8, downloaded it, and then kind of got away from the computer for a while. And so I've come back into it, and I came across an email that said that there was an issue with an earlier version of TK8. So I think I downloaded it recently, but I don't see a way to tell what version I got. That's one thing. And then the next thing
Well,
is,
let's work on that first. See,
Okay.
I've got the CX panel open. I'm going to click on this TK8 button up at the top. And in here, it should tell you, oh, click the wrong place. This is version 1.0.3. Can you see where my cursor is?
I do see that, yeah.
And that's the current version. If that's the one you're running, you've got the correct one.
Okay. And the next one is regarding masks.
But that's how to find it. You get it, you click the TK button wherever it is here.
Yeah.
That's how you find that number.
Okay.
Next question. Did pretty good
Regarding
on that one, huh?
regarding masks,
Yes.
is there a way to control the feathering like you can in Photoshop?
Yes. Let's take this image back to full screen. Okay. I'm getting a lot of things open that I need to clean up. Click the X down here to get rid of it. Get rid of my unused layers. I need to get rid of that too. I'm gonna Control J, get me a new fresh layer. All right. Now we're going to open the multi-module. And again, we click on the X to get back to our main screen. We're just going to stick with a light and dark. This is getting the ones and everything brighter. Now you can also go a color channel. You can also pick a particular intensity with this. Whoop. Didn't want to go there. Let's say I want just the 6s. Okay, this is pretty good. How do we control the feathering? Well, this is going to adjust what value you're looking at. Now, you remember that value is scored between 0 and 255 in your curves panel. Well, this is telling you which value are we wanting to focus on. So I'm going to set it on 134. Okay. Now this is going to control how bright it is, and this is going to control how wide you want the selection to be. Do you want just a narrow range or do you want a wider range? You can control that here. That's really how you control the feathering, because it's going to compute based on the value, the lightness or darkness of each of the pixels.
Okay.
And some are closer and some are further out, which means some are going to be brighter and some are going to be darker.
Okay.
And since it's a 16-bit calculation, you don't get, you don't quickly fall into those lines that you can get with a JPEG image. It's going to taper almost always, unless I'm on a sky that's almost the same color all the way across. It's very hard to get those interference lines using this. What are the questions about the TK panels? Best $29 you can spend. They come with tutorial videos. I mean, it's a deal. So let's send this back where it came from. And let's look at actions. For actions, I'm going to close this image out. Don't want to save it. I'm going to go back to Lightroom and I'm going to get some waterfalls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 should be enough. So I'm going to select these. I'm going to edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. And these are going to open up. And it's going to take it a minute to get there, but they're going to open up as one file, but with multiple layers here in your layers panel. And since there's 5 images, we're going to have to wait for a second for them to come in. And we're going to talk about actions. Now, what actions are just a pre-programmed set of steps. You can do everything in an action one step at a time. But if it's something you're doing again and again and again, you set up an action and it will do it on 1 click instead of doing it on 15 clicks. So we've got these open. And if we wanted to stack these, we would select all of these. We'd go over here and edit, and we would click auto align layers. After it was done doing that, then we could click to blend the layers. We could, after we've aligned the layers, make a smart object out of all of the aligned layers, and then go to layer, smart objects, and stack mode, and that will open up to a bunch of different kinds of calculations that it can do on that stack of layers. But we're not going to do that because that's all too hard. What we're going to do instead is we're going to click on Window, and we're going to open our Actions panel. There it is. Now I've got a lot of actions in here. Some of them work and some of them don't. Some of them are a work in progress. But if I click on the hamburger up here at the corner, you with me, Carol? And tell it I want to load an action. Now this panel also will allow you to export your actions. And if you've made some actions of your own and you want to back them up, it's a really good idea to export them and save them. But I'm going to click the button here to load actions. And it's going to say, well, where is this action that you want to load? And because I downloaded it, it's in my downloads directory. And I added the word demo to the end of this so that I would know that it's the one I'm doing for the presentation because it's already in my set and I want to delete it when I'm done. But I've clicked the file for Stack Action Demo ATN, click load, and it should come in here. There it is, right down at the bottom. Stack Actions, and then this is going to go through all the steps. But I've done one better. I have loaded this action into my TK8 panel. So I'm going to click here, click there, and wow, I'm getting new layers all over the place. It's going to take it a minute to align these, and then it puts all the aligned layers into a group, and then it's going to calculate, it's going to make a smart object, and then it's going to calculate the minimum, the median, the mean, and the maximum for each of those, which for maximum is pretty simple. It gives you the brightest pixel in each of the layers. Minimum, it gives you the darkest pixel in each of the layers. Mean is the average. Median is the most common one. And the reason I loaded an odd number of files is so there would be an actual median where, you know, 2 are brighter, 2 are lower. And now it's doing a stack, which is the last stage of the process. So while we've spent just a few minutes doing this, it's done all of these steps, and we hardly had time to think. Now, look over here. I'm going to hold down my Alt key, and I'm going to look at each one of these that I've made. That is the stack. That's like if you did auto blend. This is maximum, mean, median, minimum. I don't often use minimum. Median is sometimes pretty good. Maximum is often good, but let's use median. Okay, so we're going to move median to the top. Woohoo, median to the top. There it is. But the problem with median is that there's not a whole lot of detail in this. So why not go down here to your stack of aligned layers, find one that you like, one that has a lot of detail in it. Let's use this one. Okay, we're going to copy this one, Control J. Whoop. Here, Control J. Drag this to the very top. Turn on the median. Now, we're laying this more detailed layer over the top, and you can paint and mask in however much of this detail you want onto everything else. The other thing that I will often do is I will shoot one shot that's a slow shutter. This is 10 seconds, f22, ISO 64, slow. But the reason I do this is I get the background really nice. So if I bring that into Photoshop, and I get my move tool, which is V, bring it down here, lay it in here, hold down the shift key. Okay. Now, if I want to mask this and get a black brush to paint out the water, see, I'm getting the texture of the water coming in here on an image that shows the foliage in the background with shot at ISO 64. So it shot slow. So that stuff all looks good and it's all in focus. And then I can bring the textures back in over the top of it. Quick and dirty, but that's a technique for making waterfalls that I use a fair amount. Let me look at my list real quick and see what I've left out. Oh. We wanted to talk about the Topaz programs, but I want to make sure everybody's caught up with where we are before we go there. Okay. I'm going to close. One other quick thing. If you were going to, I'm going to flatten this. Flatten it, copy it, Control J. Now, plugins. I'm not seeing it, so I'm not going to fool with it. But it should, here, Skylum. Luminar. Now, the thing that I forgot to do, and I'm not going to go back, is I should have made this layer a smart object before I did this, because that enables you to make changes afterwards. All right, I've got this in here, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of fooling around with it, but I'm going to do something. And then I'm going to say, that's fine, apply it. Hello, apply it. It's working it, it's exporting, taking it back to Photoshop just that quick. And if I had done it as a smart object, then I could come in and make adjustments non-destructively. This program could be a little faster, I think. I mean, this is a fast machine and it's kind of fooling with me here. My patience is limited. Save changes, no. Dump Photoshop back to Lightroom. Now, I'm just going to show some examples of what these Topaz programs will do. This is a shot. I hope you can see how bad it is. It's shot at 25,600 ISO. Here, can you see the grain?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Here is after the Topaz programs got done with it. Can you see the grain? Not very much. This is 25,000. That's, this is 100% in. So we're going to go back here. Okay, this is 40,000 ISO. It's what you'd expect. How's that for a cleanup? No, it's not perfect, but it's sure not what you'd expect with a 40,000 ISO. I got one more here, and then we'll go to the program. We'll actually see how it works. All right, here's a beauty queen. Miss Oregon, United States, something or other. Anyhow, there she is, riding in the parade in Kaiser. And here she is cleaned up, shot at 25,000. It's not perfect. But when you come out to a reasonable size, not all the way in, it becomes passable.
Mm-hmm.
This software is a little overpriced. You can get a package that includes the noise package, the sharpening package, and a image enlarger, which I don't use very often because I don't print very often. $100 when it's on sale. But I think, goodness sakes, what would I have to pay for camera equipment that's that much better than what my Nikon D50 is shooting, or my Nikon D850? I mean, it's a pretty high-end camera, and you see that it bottoms out. And cripe, this is a lifesaver. So let's go to Topaz. It's not open, so we're going to open it. First, we're going to go to Denoise. They are pretty constantly pumping out updates to this. Now, you can run this as a plugin in Lightroom or Photoshop, but I don't. I get all my images that I want and I load them in. Oh, we want to see these old folks? I don't think so. I think we want to go to the parade. We're going to go to the parade. $355 is what I'm looking for. As you can see, I kind of went overboard with taking pictures. All right, we're going to load 3 of these. So here they come into Denoise. They're all in. It allows you to see before and after. You can set it to automatically give you the correction that you want. It automatically does the amount of correction. You can slide this across to see the difference that it's making in your photo. She's a little dark. Let's go down here to the next one. Every time you move it, it will update the image. And if you've got a large image open like this, it's going to take a minute to update. Now you can see, can you see how much smoother that is? How much of the grain it's taking out when I move it across her arm? Let's go to the next image. All right, bring it down here so we can see this guy's beautiful face. It is updating. Now, these are just different algorithms, and you can compare the algorithms, but generally speaking, I usually stick with their default, and I usually run severe noise because I'm going to run the sharpening program too, and then I'm going to see which one I like better. But here he is, and it's cleaned up an awful lot of that. That's how easy it is. Select all images, and you've got a whole stack of maybe 100 images. It's going to go through and it's going to do auto settings on all of them, and it's going to save them. And it may take it an hour if you've got 100 images, but you don't have to sit at the computer while it does that. We're not going to save these. We're going to close without saving. And we're going to just briefly open up the sharpener. Here it is. Okay, let's grab about 3 of these characters. And you can set it to choose automatically what you want it to do. Boy, with the sharpening program, I almost always go with the defaults. And really makes quite a difference. Let's see what the next guy, oh, it hasn't updated. There is the update. I don't know if you can see it over Zoom, but there's a very noticeable cleanup. And this does some noise reduction as well. This is too soft, very blurry. It's figuring an update. Updated. All right. This is pretty subtle in this one. But these are the toys I came prepared to share tonight. If there's questions, let me work with them. If there's something else you want to see, speak up. But these are the pieces that I brought.
So how does this handle different lenses?
It doesn't change based on the lens. It supposedly does an artificial intelligence analysis of the picture. And then it will determine how much sharpness and how much blur is in the picture and how much it can be pushed.
Okay.
I'm going to push this a lot. And it will redo this picture.
So it doesn't, go ahead.
In a month or so, I think I'm going to do a program. Oh yeah, you can see this has sharpened him up a whole lot. There's quite a lot of difference. But it's brought in a lot of the crap in his face too. But I can take that out in frequency separation. In about a month, I'm planning to do a program on how to restore old slides and old photos. So this is part of the project I'm working on that I can report on at a later time. But these images were easy to grab to show you the way the program works. Again, you can select them all. You can have them save it all and go eat supper, and it will do its thing, and you come back in an hour. So, happy day.
Mm-hmm.
Close without saving. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that you can see me again. Hello. And that's kind of where we are for tonight. I'm happy to respond to your direction, but those are the pieces I brought to share. I really think the TK8 panel is probably the best money you can spend if you use Photoshop very much. The amount of difference that I get out of the Topaz is just remarkable, especially when I'm shooting in situations I can't control, like that parade, because I had to turn up my shutter because it's all moving. Can't use a tripod. I got to keep up with it, and I've got to shoot in the light that I've got, which means I turn the ISO loose and figure I either get shots or I don't get shots. But if I don't shoot, I know I don't get shots, so I shoot and see what I come up with. And I'm really blown away with how it cleaned up those very high ISO pictures. So I'm glad that you all came. I'm glad we had a chat. I hope it was worthwhile.
Hey, Max, it's not really to do with these plugins you talked about, but it is, you mentioned a few times about stamping visible layers. Sometimes when I do that, it ignores any, if I have stuff in folders, it ignores any, what's it called? Blending modes I have when it stamps those layers, and the stamped layers look really weird. Do you know how I can get around that?
Boy, I don't know why it does that. I have never had that. I've never had that problem.
I haven't had any files in a while that I could share to show you. But when it was happening quite often, and it was rather irritating, and it made it hard to work on the projects I was working on, because they would look radically different, not just slightly, but radically different.
I have a thought There've been times when I've done a stamp layer and nothing happens. And so what I've ended up doing, my workaround, was to just add a new layer at the top. And then when I do a stamp layers, it'll fill that top layer. And it seems to look fine to me when I do that.
Okay.
I don't know why that is, but it's just kind of a weird workaround.
Sometimes it will give me a layer where I don't want it. Sometimes if I've got a group, it'll put the new layer in a group, and I really want it on the top, of the group. And yeah, I think that Scott's idea is good. If I've got a blank layer on top of the group, and then I stamp, then it's going to go on top of that blank layer instead of being sucked into the group. Now, there's a key command that will force a new layer to be created at the top of your stack. I know it exists, but I can't tell you what it is.
Okay. I'll have to look into it more. Well, I haven't had the problem happen, so I don't know how I want to jinx it and try looking into it more.
Well,
I haven't had it happen in a while.
It may be that Photoshop fixed it too.
Maybe that's why there's other bugs now, because they fixed it.
Well, I've been using the neural filters to color old photos. I've been using the blending to take out the scratches and the dust and the artifacts and all kinds of garbage. So next time, maybe half an hour on that, and we'll see what we can get out of it. And I think it's time to wish everyone a good night, and thank you all for coming. And
Thank you, Max.
happy editing.
That TK8 looks pretty interesting. I may, even though I have Luminzi, I may go ahead and get that in.
I think there is a 30-day free trial. I'm not sure, but it's well worth it.
Cool.
I discovered mine is still at 1.00.
Well, then you need to go to TK8 and download again and reinstall over the top, and that will fix it.
Okay.
Carol, send me your ghost people. I want to play with them.
What's your email one more time?
Well, I've got lots of them, but let's try.
Well, you gave me maxray at Gmail something.
Well, maxrae dot atty at gmail.com. That one works.
So what I do is I put them in Google Drive and I push the share button, and then I put your email in.
I'll be looking for it, and if I don't get it, I'll be in touch.
Yeah, they've been in there like forever.
Well,
I just thought, well, maybe he's too busy for my silly little photos, but that's okay.
I'm not too busy to play on your stuff. I could have just simply missed it, but it was unintentional.
So, I should have asked you this. Did you want to start completely from scratch, or do you want the witch where I think I edited it quite heavily, and I think I turned it into a JPEG. You probably need that one. I think I shared the raw file with you, and maybe that's why it didn't work.
Well, share what you've got, and I'll see what I can make out of it.
Okay.
Share
Fun.
broadly. That's what we do in this group. We share broadly, hope for the best.
All right.
Well,
Nice.
Happy night. Stay out of the rain. Keep a smile.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Nice to meet you, John.